I just want to be good. That's what he said to me. I just want to be good. He wasn't talking about being a good ball player or musician or artist or teacher. He simply wanted to be a good person. That was his sole ambition. And yet, having been in and out of prison for much of his life, he was in trouble with the law again. As he told his story, there was desperation in his eyes. He wasn't afraid to go back to prison. What he feared was that he would never be a good person. Some say that people are born good, but anyone who has raised children might argue with that. There's a reason why it's called the terrible twos. Twos are willful. They haven't yet learned to listen and obey while they're exploring the world. They need to be taught what is good and what is not. In the first reading from Isaiah, God instructs his willful and disobedient people. He says, stop doing what you know is wrong and learn to do good. He said, if you are willing and obey, you will have goodness in your life. As disciples, this is what we are called to do. That is, be willing to listen and learn and to serve. The best translation for the Greek word for disciple is learner. We are all learners. This is why Jesus said, don't call yourself master or teacher, because we just might forget that we are always learners and that Jesus is the only master. I must admit that sometimes today's passage from Matthew terrifies me. When Jesus calls out the religious leaders who preach but do not practice, I get nervous. The good news for me and for all of us learners is that Jesus is eager to teach and lead us to himself and provide us with his goodness. The true desire to be good is really a desire for God, a desire put there by God. Unfortunately, there are many ways that our desire can be misdirected, fear being at the top of the list. Fear turns our desire to be good into worrying that we might do something wrong or that we will be judged or rejected. We can become so focused on protecting ourselves from getting it wrong that we resist the very goodness of God himself. For our part, goodness has more to do with willingness than anything else. Willingness to listen and to serve, which is what obedience really means. In this season of Lent, we are invited to pray, fast, and give alms. But doing these things is not a measure of how good we are. They will not of themselves make us good people. Their purpose is to increase our willingness to be transformed by God, to receive God's goodness. We cannot will ourselves into being good through pious actions, but we can become willing to learn, willing to let go and rely totally on God. In other words, we make space for God rather than trying to take God's place. Despite our best efforts, there are times when we are self-absorbed, disconnected, and anxious, uncertain that we're doing the right thing. Or we may realize that we've willfully wandered off like a spiritual 2-year-old. In these times, it is perfectly okay to start by praying, "Dear God, I just want to be good." But we don't stop there. Instead, we let go and trust Jesus. then we confidently wait and listen as Jesus says to us, "Learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart."